Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's LinkPointers webinar, Introducing LinkPoint Connect for Salesforce. My name is Jill, and I'll be the moderator on the call today. And before we get started, I'd like to cover a few brief housekeeping notes. All attendees are muted and placed in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. In the GoToWebinar viewer, you can make our presentation full screen for easy viewing. Feel free to submit any questions you might have for today's speaker by using the question section in the GoToWebinar panel. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent out later today to everybody involved. Now, for those of you who may be new to LinkPoint 360, we've been the leading provider of email to CRM integration for over 16 years, dedicated to enhancing productivity and increasing CRM adoption. We bring together Microsoft Outlook and IBM Notes with either Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics CRM, or Inforce CRM. We have over 90,000 customers worldwide, and we continue to stand out with innovative productivity solutions, standardized integration with other Salesforce applications, and full support for IMAP, POP3, and Citrix or Terminal Services environments. Our LinkPoint Connect product brings CRM data inside the email application, making it easier for users to interact with and send data to the CRM without leaving their email. And in addition to view, record, create, and sync functionality, our customers leverage flexible control over how their data is managed and are able to interact with CRM custom objects or entities. For today's webinar, we will be providing an in-depth look at LinkPoint Connect for LinkPoint Connect for Salesforce with our desktop edition. We're going to show today's demonstration in Microsoft Outlook, but the functionality is similar for our IBM Notes integration, with the exception of action button placement and access. Today's topics include viewing Salesforce information in the LinkPoint Connect side panel, recording emails to contacts and accounts, and synchronizing calendars, contacts, and tasks. We're also excited to preview the Winter 17 release, and as we demonstrate the software, we'll be showing you along the way where you'll be able to find the latest features and enhancements. And now I'd like to introduce today's presenter. Jeff Esco is the Global Sales Manager here at LinkPoint 360. I'll hand the controls over to him and let him walk you through LinkPoint Connect and the Winter 17 release. Jeff?
Dynamite, Jill, thanks. And I'm going to show everybody my screen here. You know what? You'd think I've done this a time or two. I should be able to show you my screen, right? Show screen. There you go, much better. So this will be fun. It won't take up a lot of your time. If you have used LinkPoint before, there's some new and interesting things here to show off. If you've never seen it before, I think you'll be very impressed with what's available in way of functionality. The goal when you integrate Outlook into Salesforce is to make people more efficient, faster, more productive. So it's not really just about, well, what kind of bells and whistles and functionality can we throw out there, but how do we make this valuable? How do we make it so that you don't have to do as much data entry, or you don't have to keep running back and forth between Outlook and Salesforce? Our functionality, like Jill said, breaks down really into three sections. One is the recording of emails. I'll show you all kinds of functionality there. Number two is the ability to sync contacts, calendars, and tasks. There's a lot of variables in there, but I'll give you a good high view of the different things you can do. And the third part is really the first thing we're going to talk about, and that's this side panel here on the right-hand side of your screen. I'll populate mine in a minute, but side panel's job is to show you your Salesforce data and let you work with that data, add information, edit information, get to that information without, again, having to keep running back and forth between Salesforce and Outlook. So for instance, I have a couple of emails here in my Outlook. Let's click on the one from Fred. Side panel populates. It's showing me that Fred is in my Salesforce versus the email before from Doug. Doug is not in my Salesforce, and the tool is telling me so. And I'll show you in a minute what to do about that, but at least you know when you get an email, is this guy in Salesforce or not? That's always a good starting point. All right, go back to Fred for a minute. Not only is Fred in Salesforce, but you'll notice at the bottom, there are a couple of tabs here, different pieces of information that exist in Salesforce as they pertain to Fred. Right? For those that like the vernacular, it's when Fred has a contact role on an opportunity or on a case. So we click on opportunities, and there's 3 opportunities in the system, 1, 2, 3, that Fred is part of. Let's double click and you can see it better. Right? If you use cases, same thing, go down to cases. There are 2 cases in the system. Double click. Okay. And other information like what emails have been recorded to Fred's record. Scroll around to see them. Double click again if you want to read it. Right? What's on my task list? What's on my calendar? So when you get an email from somebody, instead of having to leave Outlook, go to Salesforce, look this guy up, and then start scrolling up and down what might be a long contact record, well, instead, let's look in the side panel and all the information is there. So you're fast and you're efficient. And I'm going to use those terms a lot as we talk. Right? So go back up top for a moment. There's a bunch of icons here in the top of what we call the contact record area, right? Business card. I'm not going to go through all of them with you because quite frankly, you're not going to use all of them. And in the new year, we'll probably have some pulled out. But let me show you 2 or 3 things in the side panel that you will use probably regularly, right? The first thing is the first icon. This little cloud icon here, and it shows up all about in the contact area, in the opportunity, etc. For the instance where you really do want to go back to Salesforce, you really do want to go into Salesforce and see this contact or see this opportunity. Let's just click on the icon. It'll open up your browser, take you right to the contact, right? Or go to the opportunity. Let's pick an opportunity, click the icon, you're on the opportunity. So no searching, no scrolling. You click an icon, you're where you want to be. Right? Now, conversely, let's jump all the way to the end of the list, this yellow pencil. Again, yellow pencil shows up all throughout the side panel. Yellow pencil is what we use for adding or editing information without going back to Salesforce. So an example I like to use, I've got an opportunity here. And you look at a couple of things in here. It's worth about $95,000. We gave it a Department of Professional Services. There's some other data. Again, if I were to double click, I could see that a little differently, okay? So let's pretend Fred emails you and says, hey, look, my math was off. This deal's really only worth about $45,000. Okay, well, I could go back to Salesforce and run a search and try to find this opportunity and make my changes. Or I can click on this yellow pencil. And you're going to see this pop up. This is called a smart form. And if you look, you'll see that we're showing you all of the fields associated with the opportunity. Mandatory fields are highlighted in red. Right? If there were different record types, if you were using different record types, you would have a drop down there to charge from as well. Right? It's looking at your Salesforce instance, and it's pulling you back the data that you're used to working with. So let's make some changes. I said this deal is not worth 95, it's worth 65. So let's make that change right here. And I pointed out to you before, so that's a text field, right? I pointed out to you before a drop down called professional services. Let's pick something else. Let's just call it overage. Nice short word. All right, here's a date, 3/24/16. Let's just change the date, right? I'm making different kinds of changes, drop downs, fields, text fields, whatever. And I'm going to save this information. Let's click OK. Right. Take a look at your opportunity again here. I'm going to highlight it again. It says 65. It says overage. It shows a new close date. You made those changes in the smart form. They are right away being made in Salesforce. And we are right away showing you those changes in the side panel. It's that fast. You make the changes in the smart form, boom, you made the changes in Salesforce. So it's a really good way to add and edit information without having to keep going back into Salesforce and finding the things. You're finding them in the side panel. All right. One of the other things I wanted to mention about side panel, and there's other things to mention, but let me share this one before I forget. It doesn't matter necessarily who owns this contact or who created the opportunity or who recorded the last email. The things that you are allowed to see in Salesforce natively, you can see here in the side panel. So that's a good way of not only knowing what you are working on, what are your coworkers working on? If you and a coworker are both emailing Fred about 2 different opportunities, all of that's going to show up here in the side panel. Just a good way to know, hey, when did you contact Fred? What did he send you? Where did you send him? Okay, it's all being shown here. So let's talk about something else the side panel will do. I said to you earlier, email from Doug. Doug is not in Salesforce, and so the side panel is showing nothing. Well, this is a guy that we want in Salesforce. We think we're going to be doing business with Doug. But of course, we don't want to type all this. So if you go down to the bottom of the side panel, there's a couple of icons here. Right? This is create a new account, create a new contact, create a new lead. Account, contact, lead. They all work the same way. They work by drag and drop. So we're going to highlight the information. Let's drag it to the side panel, and let's drop it. Let's create a contact. Let's drop it on the contact icon. Right? Again, I'll open up a browser, and we've created a new contact. Here's the information. Again, permissions-based. If you have a coworker that's not allowed to create contacts and leads, when they get into Salesforce, they'll get that warning there that says in so many words, hey, you're not allowed to be here. Right? Another permission-based part of Salesforce is often you can't create a contact unless the account exists. So if you tried to save this contact, Salesforce will still tell you if the account exists or not. If it doesn't exist, just go back and do the drag and drop to the account field. Then come back here and save your contact. If this does exist, maybe I'm adding a new guy to an existing account. I'm going to save this in Salesforce. Let's go back, refresh the side panel. Oh, Doug shows up. Again, it's that fast. You created the information in Salesforce, side panel recognizes it. Right? By the way, Lightning users, if you do drag and drop to create a contact and you're a Lightning user, instead of it opening up in the browser like we just did here, it will open up a smart form in your Outlook instance like it did for the opportunity. So it will work. It's definitely Lightning ready. That's just the only variable I can think of at the moment. Right? One other thing about drag and drop. Let's go back to Fred for a second. Okay, Fred emails you and he says, hey, we've relocated. This is my new address down here. Or hey, I got promoted. I have a new title, got a new phone number. Okay, you want to be a good egg and you want to update this record. Again, you don't want to do a lot of typing. So you have two options, right? Option number one, we talked about the pencil. Let's click on the pencil, make your changes. Very easy. Maybe you don't want to type at all. Option number two, do drag and drop. Let's highlight the new signature bar and do the drag and drop. Wait, Jeff, won't that create a duplicate? It will not. This time when you do drag and drop, you're going to get a different kind of pop-up box. This box is saying, hey, if you really want to create a new Fred Johnson, you're certainly allowed. We just wanted to double check because we found a couple of other Fred Johnsons in your Salesforce. It's just a first name, last name look, but we're looking. And maybe you want to just update one of these records. Right? The orange is what is different. The check boxes is how we govern it. Now, maybe I don't want to change this, but I want to change these things. When you hit apply, same deal. Opens up in Salesforce, lets you save your changes. So from a functionality standpoint, drag and drop is doing three things for you. It's letting you create new contacts and leads. It's letting you update, edit existing contacts, leads. And if you think about it, this box is kind of serving as a duplicate blocker, right? If you and I are copied on an email and you have fast hands, so you do the drag and drop. Well, when I go to do the drag and drop a few minutes later, this box is going to show up. And this box is telling me, hey, this guy's already here. You don't have to do that. So it's a good way to protect your data. Right? So that's side panel. What is in Salesforce? Can I get to it right away? Can I edit or add information right away? There's actually one last thing in the side panel that I'm going to show you all the way at the end. That's my super secret surprise. But let's move on to the next part. Let's record emails. Right? Upper left-hand corner, other side of the world, there are two buttons for recording emails. You'll notice they're always upper left. It doesn't matter inbound or outbound. It doesn't matter if I'm replying to an email or if I'm typing a brand new email. They're always upper left. It's still always optional. Do I want to record this email or not? Doesn't matter inbound or outbound. It's an important email. I want to record it. we'll use one of these buttons. It's not so important. Emails like, thank you, have a good weekend, talk to you in 10 minutes. Maybe you don't want to fill your CRM up with those, so you don't have to. It'll always be up to the user, do I want to record this email? All right, so for the sake of our conversation here, I'm going to show you all the cool stuff in our first button, and then we'll talk about how the second button is different. All right, so let's close. And I'm going to work from my inbox. Just it's easier for me. Again, the functionality is identical in or out. So email from Fred that I want to record. I'm going to go to the record button. This is my email recording box. And there's a bunch of stuff in here. I'm going to show it to you in a very logical order. We'll make a lot of sense of this. First and foremost, who are we emailing with? We're emailing with Fred. We already know Fred is in Salesforce. So Fred is showing up here on the right-hand side of the box. Right? You can literally record an email to Fred's contact record. If you were to do nothing else and you just clicked record now, the email gets recorded. It goes to activity history, just like you're used to Fred's contact record. If there are people copied on this email, any of those people that are in Salesforce will show up here. You might have 2, 5, 7 names here. You can record to any combination of those names. You could always take away names you don't want to record to with this little X and leave the names you want to keep. All right. On the left-hand side of the box are different objects related to Fred, just like you had in the side panel. The different cases, cases and opportunities and what have you. So here they are. And let's say you're working on a few opportunities with Fred, and today's email is about this opportunity right here. Well, let's click on that and bring it over. I'm recording this email both to Fred and to the opportunity. I'm being more specific, more granular. All right, so let's use another scenario. Sometimes you get an email from somebody and you want to record it. This is an important email, but I don't want to record it to this guy or exclusively to this guy. And a great example is coworkers. A coworker gets an email from Jake Smith and he forwards it to you. Or wait, a coworker emails you and says, oh, I spoke to Jake Smith about an hour ago. We talked about this, this, and that. All right, well, in both examples, I've got to get some information about Jake Smith into the system. But if you try to record an email from a coworker, this box would show up empty. Why is it empty? Because your coworker is not in your CRM, not normally. Right? Your favorite customer who you email with all the time hires a summer intern, and that intern emails you. Well, they're not in your CRM yet. Box is empty. So upper left side right here, let's highlight this. This is a search field. So I didn't get the email directly from Jake Smith, but let's look Jake up, and let's choose Jake Smith. Green arrow, bring him over. Right? And I don't see the opportunity that I'm looking for. There's a couple here, but it's not the one that I want. Let's look up an opportunity that I do want to record to. Let's bring it over. All right? It doesn't matter who emails you. It doesn't matter what the email is about. If it's something that you want to record in Salesforce, you can just use the search field and put it wherever you want. All right? So let's add another step to that. You email Jake, and you say, Jake, here's your really important email. It's so important, I'm going to call you on Thursday. Let's go over this email together. All right, so I'm sending Jake an email. And before I hit the record button, I'm going to come over here to follow up. And I'm going to create a follow-up. It might be a task, might be on my calendar. Pick any day. Sorry about that cough there. Any month. Let's put in some notes here. If you are a manager or a team leader, maybe you want to assign this follow-up to somebody else. Jake, here's your really important email. I'm going to have my colleague, Tom, call you on Thursday. Right? So I'm sending someone an email. The email gets recorded into Salesforce, and I'm creating a follow-up in Salesforce, all at the same time. Now when I tell someone I'm going to do something, nothing falls through the cracks because I'm writing up that follow-up for myself, that reminder, if you will, as I'm recording the email. More efficient, more productive. I love that feature. Right? Some emails have attachments. If your email has an attachment, which you see in this example here, when you go to record it, the attachment shows up in the box, it's an option. Right? If this email is a document, something that you want to record, click on the box, email gets recorded, the attachment gets recorded. This attachment's not so important. Here, it's the graphics and the logos in my signature. Well, let's leave that unchecked. So not only do you get to decide, do I want to record this email, you get to decide if you want to record the attachment. Attachments will normally record to the Notes and Attachments section of Salesforce. If you are using the new Files object in Salesforce, Winter Release will ensure that the attachment records there to Files instead of to Notes and Attachments. It's up to you as the user. You'll configure that. Right? One last thing about the recording box. When you record an email, we record the email and as the subject line in Salesforce, we call it whatever the subject line here is. Here, we'll call this email product interest when it lands in Salesforce. All right? You email back and forth with Glenn a whole bunch. You might record 4, 6, 9 emails called product interest. And then 2 weeks from now, Glenn has more questions. So Glenn doesn't start a new email, right? He finds your last email from 2 weeks ago, hits reply, and you guys email back and forth some more. You record a bunch of more emails called product interest. And this could go on and on. It happens to everybody. For the most part, I don't mind. I like to see I've got an email interaction going on with this customer. They're asking good questions. I'm providing answers. However, let's say 2 months from now, I go back into Salesforce, and I'm just looking for that one email where Glenn tells me when he's going to be out of the country, and I won't be able to reach him. I don't really want to go back and reread the last 9 emails that I recorded, right? Just to find what might be one sentence worth of information. So let's do this. When you go to record an email, there's a tab here called Edit. Edit button does not change what you're doing in Outlook. So whatever you type, that's what your customer is going to see, and vice versa. But it does let you edit how you save this back into Salesforce. Sometimes I will type myself a little note. I will not have a typo in my little note. There, see? Sometimes I just rename the email, and quite frankly, I do that a lot. I'll explain why in a second. All right, this email is 3 paragraphs long. He's just trying to tell me that he only buys red widgets. All right, let's make a note of that. This is the 8th email in a train of emails. Well, let's get rid of the 6 behind it. All right, we're trying to make it easier and faster for the user to find this email later on. Right? So there's really 2 reasons why I use this feature. They might both be important to you. One is, like we said, let's summarize this email now. I want to know very quickly, what is this email about? When I go back into Salesforce, I want to be able to find it in a second, just looking for the subject line called whatever it is I'm looking for, right? The other reason why I use this feature is because if you are in a, let's call it an email intensive relationship with your customer, you guys email back and forth all the time. So maybe it's 2 months since you've spoken with this customer or you've emailed with this customer and you're getting ready to call them. So you're going to stop into Salesforce first, look at the contact record, get yourself caught up on what's been going on, right? So again, instead of rereading your last 8 or 9 emails, trying to get reacquainted with the project, what if one email said, asked for pricing, and the next email said on the subject line, quoted 1,000 Twinkies. And the third email said, no budget until November. And the next one under that said, project postponed, call in February. And here I am in February. Well, without having to go back and reread these emails, I know exactly what's going on with this guy. He likes Twinkies. He wants a whole bunch of them. He asked me for pricing, but he can't buy until February. I know all that just by reading these subject lines that I created in Salesforce. So it could be a really powerful feature in the way that you go back and look for information in Salesforce. All right, so if this box has all of this great stuff in it, why is there a second button, you ask? Well, here's the answer. Sometimes you get an email and there's no magic, right? You're not searching anything. You're not creating a file, a follow-up. You're not editing anything. There's no attachments. You just want to take this email, and record it to the contact record, and that's all. That's what Smart Record does. You might call this one-click recording, right? Email from Glenn, click, it's in Salesforce. No box opens up. There's no other functionality to offer you. All it will do is record to the contact record, or the lead, of course. Right? Next one, go to Fred's email. Click, boom, email's recorded. That's that. The one thing I really like about Smart Record, other than how fast and easy it is to work with, is if you highlight a block of emails, right? A block of unrelated emails, and I click Smart Record. Well, Smart Record knows that this email goes to Glenn's record, and this one goes to Fred's record, and so forth. Any match that it can make, it'll record in Salesforce. So, you're having a day where you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to record emails. You can go into your sent file, highlight your last, let's say 10 emails, boom, send them all in at once. So Smart Record, when your needs are very simple, just get me an email to the contact record. Recording box, when you want to be more granular, really do some cool things with that data. All right, that's email recording. There's other little things that the tool does with email recording. We do let you use your Salesforce templates in Outlook. We do give you a, email search address book, that's the word. So you don't have to keep going back to Salesforce to look up a name of a contact. Just type in either the name of a company or the name of a person, and you can add names to emails that quick. All right, other little things. But again, I wanted you to be able to just see the things that you'll probably do all the time, every day. There's my Salesforce template, but I threw it into Outlook. All right, so now, last part, let's talk about syncing. LinkPoint has the ability to sync contacts, calendars, and tasks. We offer all three. We treat all three of them separately. Right? It's up to the user. Do I want to sync this? Do I want to sync that? I want to sync my calendar. Let's go. Calendar, yes, but maybe not my contacts. I want contacts to be a one-way sync. I want calendar to be bi-directional. It's all fine. Right? So each user can come up to this, what am I calling this? The configure box. I thought I had a cooler name for it. I really don't. But for each of the three, just pick the object and is this something I want to sync? Yes. You also get to decide what are the rules. This is an example of a two-way sync. This is an example of a one-way sync. If you are new to Salesforce, if you are new to LinkPoint, and you want us to pre-configure these rules for you, we offer that as a service. If it's something where it's going to be easy enough for you to just come in here and click these, you can see it's very easy to do. Right? You also get to decide, when am I going to sync? Am I going to sync automatically every hour? What number of hours? Or this says never. It doesn't really mean never ever. It means never sync automatically. We call this manual mode. Manual mode is kind of like a safety catch for you. The tool won't take off without you because it's never going to sync automatically. It's going to wait for you to go down and find the hidden button, which I can't show you because it's hidden, and click it and say, yes, manual mode, I'm ready to sync now. And this will keep you from ever accidentally throwing a sync when you're not ready. Manual mode also provides a summary screen. It lets you check your work. So if you do begin to experiment with the sync function, do 1 or 2 in manual mode and take a look at that summary screen. Is this correct? Did I set this up right? Is this the data that I want to move? You could always come back here later and change it to some hourly feature. Now you don't have to think about it again. You don't have to push any buttons. It runs in the background. You don't even know that it's happening. Right? There are, again, fail-safes to keep you from syncing data you don't want to sync. In other words, contacts. You get to designate which contacts am I syncing and which ones am I not. So your private contacts stay private, and your sister and grandma and whatever don't wind up in Salesforce. Or calendar items. If you mark an item as private, it's not going to sync up in Salesforce. So lunch with grandma or pick up laundry can be put on your calendar, but it won't show up in Salesforce. In fact, let me show you something about calendar item in Salesforce. Okay. If you put something on your Outlook calendar, we were just saying before, you can sync it into Salesforce. Now, this is not a great example because I'm creating it as a event, not a meeting. But if you sent out, let's say you were emailing people an invite, and show up on your Outlook calendar, you can sync it up into Salesforce. If you come all the way here to the left where it says link with Salesforce, not only are you putting this on your calendar, which is going to happen if you stop right here and send it, it'll sync, but link with Salesforce will also let you attach the item to a contact or to an opportunity or both. Right? So what are we doing here? Not only are we going to sync this item onto our calendar, we're going to make sure it shows up on Dylan's contact record as an open activity, or I'll tie it back to the opportunity. Why do we associate? Why would you choose to come over here and make this connection? It really depends on the kind of reporting that you do. In other words, how many meetings did I have in February? Well, that's one report. How many meetings did I have with Dylan Falvey? That's a different report. How many meetings does it take to close an opportunity? Different report. So we're trying to, even though we don't offer reporting in and of itself, we're trying to give you good data to work with. Right? Winter release will ensure that you can sync invitees, which is something that people have been asking for. There are people that are using the invitees object in their Salesforce calendars, and we can sync to that object. Again, mark an item as private. Item will not sync. It's on your Outlook calendar, but it won't show up in Salesforce. Right? So that's syncing of contacts, calendars, and tasks. I'll show you one last thing since we have a little bit of time, and then we'll take some questions if you want. Right? We've been talking about taking an email from one side and putting it into Salesforce, or taking a calendar from one side and getting that into Salesforce. And these are kind of what I call binary, right? I click a button and it happens. There's a piece of your use of Salesforce that isn't quite so binary. And what I mean by that is getting notes, meeting notes in a Salesforce, because it requires somebody to actually type stuff out, right? I have to acknowledge the fact that I had this meeting with you and here is what happened. This is what we talked about. And not everybody will do that for different reasons. Some people get too busy. Some people aren't good writers. Some people just forgot. So there's a way to solve two of these questions. Question number one is, how do I get people to make it easy for them to put notes into Salesforce? And the other part of the equation is, how do we make sure that this is good information? Because if you put in a note that said, met with Jeff, he was wonderful, it's very flattering, but it doesn't give you any information about the deal. But if you were able to have people put in quality information that really informed you of what's going on, more valuable, right? So there's a feature called a meeting recap. And it's launched from this little gray button here on the side panel. Looks like a checkerboard. When you click on it, it's going to, let's move it over here. It's going to open up the meeting recap piece. Here's the really super special, interesting thing about meeting recap. I was talking before about binary versus not binary. Meeting recap is preloaded with questions that you as management come up with ahead of time. Questions, if it's multiple choice, potential answers, logic flow, what fields do I want to update, what object do I want to tie this back to. So it's completely customized. It's customized to your specific needs. It can be used in sales departments to update opportunities. It could be used in service departments to update cases, issues, problems, whatever, accounting, billing issues, whatever it is. So I'm going to show you a very fast example based on some super generic questions. And just keep in mind that you can use the tool really any way that you can envision it. Right? My first question is, did the meeting occur? Yours might be, what kind of call was this? So that you know what kind of questions are going to come up next. Right? Next question is asking me, what do I want to tie this meeting or this conversation back to? I'm going to pick an opportunity. That's how it works in my world. Again, in your world, it might be an op, it might be a case, it might be whatever. Right? And remember, by the way, a meeting doesn't have to be, I drove to your building and we had a meeting. Right? A conference call is a meeting. a good phone call, a web demo. Somebody just called in and asked a few questions. So again, it's very broad. So here's a multiple choice question. Here's multiple choice, I'm allowed more than one answer. Maybe multiple choice won't cut it, and I need to leave in a little bit of room for text space, okay? Maybe it's a field here, like a calendar. Another multiple choice. I tried to keep it short. Okay, this is a dollar amount. Look, you can see I went pretty big here, huh? All right. I think there's one more question here. Maybe multiple choice won't cut it at all. Maybe this is just an essay. I'm being facetious. I didn't mean essay. I meant we're just going to type. All right. So we just answered together 10 questions in 15 seconds. So for the user, it's very fast. There's no reason why you wouldn't do that. Right? What does it look like in Salesforce? Well, let's go into Salesforce, and I'm going to look up that opportunity. Let's try it this way. Here we go. Here's the op. And you'll notice under activity history, here's the recap summary. We're telling you, hey, this is it's not an email you recorded, it's the meeting recap. When you click on it, look how neat, right? Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And there's dates after it to show when this happened. Because you could see over here, I was just sort of experimenting, first 2 questions, and then I came back a month and a half later and I updated it. So when you do that, when you update an existing recap, you go through the recap again, right? And it'll show you the new answers with the new dates. So you've got kind of an idea of what's changed. What questions did you miss that you later filled in? But it's very concise. You don't have to worry that, Jill only types a couple of sentences and Jeff types a whole bunch of paragraphs. And Jill writes very neatly and Jeff writes in Jeff hand. It's always in the same place, in the same format. It can even be configured to be emailed to a manager or a team leader. And maybe you get enough of these, you can't stop and read each one the minute you get it, but oh, Jeff did a meeting recap. Right? So if you do have an issue where I need to get good freehand quality information into Salesforce based on meetings and interactions, this is a piece that can be added in. Just something else I want to share with you there. So that is pretty much everything. Again, other little things the tool does, these are the things that'll make you more efficient, more productive, and you can do it right out of the box the minute you install the tool. And since you've been so patient with your time, if I can answer specific questions for you, it would be my pleasure.
Thanks, Jeff. Just as a reminder to everybody on the call, if you do have a question for Jeff, I'm more than happy to relay that to him. You can go ahead and type that into the questions section on your GoToWebinar panel. And we'll give everyone a minute here in case there is anything that comes up. While I do that, I do want to just sort of talk for about a minute about the Windows 17 release, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So our rollout did begin a couple weeks ago. We're pretty excited about it. I know Jeff did a great job touching on all the different features and enhancements that come with that package. If you have not received your update yet, don't panic. It is a phased rollout, so we go out in batches to customers. If you are super anxious to get your updates sooner than maybe you would be scheduled for, feel free to go ahead and reach out to your account executive. They can take a look at when you might be getting that, and also maybe even bump you up in the list. So again, excellent talking points as far as what features are included, but just so everybody knows, they'll be rolling out to you shortly, or you can reach out to your account executive if you have questions. If you're not sure why you don't see them yet, maybe you just aren't slated to get that this week or next, but we can certainly move you up in the order. It looks like we don't have any other questions today, and we certainly are respectful of everybody's time. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. And I just want to mention to everyone as a reminder, and I can go ahead and show my screen here. Let's go ahead and do that we do have a lot of online resources that you can take advantage of. As customers, as prospects, you can certainly go ahead and check out our online knowledge base. Step-by-step articles, quick tips, FAQs, videos, anything you would need if you wanted to go back and take a deeper look at what Jeff has already sort of gone through with you, you certainly are welcome to. And again, your account executives are standing by if you have questions about your account, about updates, partnership even, and you can reach them directly, or you can email our sales email and we'll connect you with your account executive if you're not sure who that is. And again, we have our support team. So if you have questions about the technology, want some troubleshooting, certainly they're standing by as well to help you with any of those types of questions. And that does wrap up today's presentation. Again, if you think of a question or have anything additional that you need, you can always feel free to reach out to us. We appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us today, and we do hope to see you next time.